So, Alonso, thank you for joining us. We're just going to jump right on in. Yeah. So, Gueros, you co-wrote this as well as directed it. Yeah. How did the story come about?
I started writing this by myself about 10 years ago. I studied in London, and then I came back to Mexico and was like unemployed for a whole year, and back to living in my parents' house, which was crummy.
We're Pretentious Film Majors.
Yeah. And just being back there, I started writing this story sort of as a therapy, to just have something to do. And it took me back to this strike that happened in Mexico in '99 that lasted for almost a year in the National University, which is the biggest university in Mexico. So there was this big strike that stopped everything, and people's lives just sort of went into crises. Lots of people went into deep depressions, and because when you're a student, as you know, it's like the whole meaning to your life, sort of school can be, and then when that stops, then people had nothing to do. So most of my friends who were involved in the strike, they started living in this limbo of inactivity, and so I started gathering all these stories from the strike, which were really funny and interesting, and just sort of recording how my friends used to kill time, finding different ways. One of them became a really great magician. He started learning magic tricks, and then he became a great magician. And also another thing that they used to do was just drive, and I came along with them a couple of times, was just drive around Mexico City, just get on the car with no sense of where they're actually going to end up, and just drive around till wherever, and so that's where the idea of the road movie came from. It was originally, there was no purpose to their going around the city, and then I found this story of I came up with this story of actually having a purpose, which was saying good farewell to their folk idol.
So, for someone who's not familiar with the film at all, how would you describe it?
That's always a difficult one. It's a black and white coming of age road movie in Mexico City, I guess. I think something like that. I don't know. I think it's hard for me to describe. I don't know. I'll leave that up to the pretentious people.
Well, since you've described it as a coming of age story, and it clearly is, how do you think it'll translate to all audiences? Do you think it'll speak more so to younger people just because students will be able to relate to it with the feeling of unease and disconnect? Or do you think it'll speak more to a more adult audience just because the themes surrounding it as a whole are just so much grander?
Well, I mean, that's a hard thing to predict. I mean, and I don't know if it's worth predicting what audiences' reactions will be, or which audiences it will appeal to more. But I think that one of the things that I have noticed is that younger people react to it enthusiastically, and I mean, it is definitely a film about youth, but I think older people react to it as well because they're maybe taken back to their youth, and so I mean, it is definitely it's not a story that will make you think about what are you gonna do when you're old, or about death, or it's not about that. It is definitely about coming of age and about youth. So like last night we had this weird moment in the Q&A that this guy was standing there for hours waiting to speak to me, and then he came up to me and he was like mumbling all this stuff, and he was very moved, and I noticed it was Jeff Goldblum.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was, and he really I really couldn't understand what he was saying to me about the film, but he he said he was moved by the story of the brothers, and I don't know. I gathered from what he was saying that he liked the way that we portrayed youth and sort of took him back to his youth. So, yeah, I think hopefully it'll move things in that way. I don't know.
Well, was there anything in particular you were trying to say by sharing? Because clearly you, as you say, you collected all these different stories from people who you knew from during that strike and whatnot. So what is it, do you think you were trying to say through this film? Is it a comment on that time in that particular moment, or can it be applied to now?
I think definitely it can be applied to now. I think you've sort of, when writing a film, especially for that long, because I wrote it and I made many different drafts. So you go through different things, finding out what you're trying to say. And then at one point you abandon trying to say something and you're just trying to tell a story. And then you fall in love with the characters and you... So I think I early on I abandoned trying to make a big statement about youth or about politics, and then I think the only thing that really just survived the whole process through filming and editing as well was the contrast between stasis and movement, and how sort of stopping sort of takes the life away from you, and I think it's movement that makes us come alive. And I think that's the one thing that sort of survived through the whole writing and directing and editing process, of the contrast between being dead and alive, and and really alive, and that can only be done by moving. So I think that's what the whole road movie did for the characters. It brought them back to life,
Now, about movement and the statement on being dead or alive, is that why you chose to shoot in black and white, just to kind of to lend itself to that, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, there's many reasons. I've been asked this question often, and why did you shoot in black and white? And I think, to be honest, like everything I've shot, my short films and other stuff, there has to be a not an intellectual choice. It has to be just a gut feeling. And I always had the gut feeling that it had to be black and white. And then you make up stuff to justify why you shot it in that way. So one of the things I made up to justify why I shot it black and white was it is a film about contrast. It's a film about social and economic contrast and political contrast. And Mexico is a place of huge contrasts. So black and white is the perfect photography for contrast, for high contrast, and also I wanted it to be timeless, like to be not time specific, to get it out of the... So you watch it and you don't know if it's the strike of '99 or if it's happening now, because sometimes you see smartphones and some roads in Mexico that weren't around in '99. So you don't really know when exactly it's taking place, the year. And I think that was a very powerful tool, because it meant that we didn't have to do a documentary about the strike. We could just do whatever the story needed. So I think those are the main reasons for the black and white.
And just, okay, let's say hypothetically, if you had the chance to reshoot this, redo it, and you had any pick of any actors you wanted to be in the film, who would you pick?
I think I'd have the same guys. I think I really can't see anybody else. I mean, I wrote the parts for them. They're my friends, most of them. Tenoch, the leading guy, I've made many short films with him. Like my demo reel looks like his reel. And the girl, she's my wife. And the other guy, he's my friend. So, I mean, and many of my friends play small parts in it. So I don't think I'd pick anybody else. Definitely.
Because you'd get in trouble if
Yeah.
you said otherwise.
Exactly.
Got you.